Wow. Um, all in all, what a crazy day, crazy game. I think there was some more craziness going around the NFL, but quite frankly, um, my crazy day started at the game at the Dome today in the Bunker Club when they decided that a small kind of food and drink area was a great place to bring in a great big large brass band, jazz band who almost blew my eardrums out. So it was nice and quiet in the stadium compared to went out there, watched what we're going to get into. Just one of the, I, I'm still scratching my head trying to make sense of what went on for 4 quarters today. Not necessarily in a bad way, not necessarily in a great way. Just it was strange. And then the reason why I'm telling you this story is it got even stranger because the normal hour ride home commute from New Orleans back home took over two because apparently there was something going on in the interstate. Traffic was jammed up. So time I got here, I'm running late. I don't have the graphic at the top with the score. Barely got everything done, kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and did not get a chance to really dive deep into the game, the replay. Saw a little bit of it, but not enough. It's today is kind of more like I really don't have any answers. I sat there 4 quarters, thinking how in the hell did we get back in this game? How were we in this game? How were we able to get it down to the last play and almost walk out of there with a win is beyond me. I didn't really know stat wise what went on during the game. Never kind of checked them a little bit on the forever ride home in the car this afternoon. And brother in law and I had a long time to talk about the game. And like even then I was kind of commenting, I was going, I can't believe they didn't just run Brian Robinson down our throat because we have such a hard time stopping the run. He's like, I think they kind of did. What was his total numbers? Look him up, and he was 21 for 65. And I'm like, and I know he broke off about a 20-yarder because it happened right in front of us. I'm like, holy crap, we really did kind of shut down the run. You look at Jaden Daniels, 11 for 66. So they definitely gashed us there. And the one crazy scramble where we should have had him sacked and ended up, I believe that was on their last field goal they made, or second to last one. Yeah, I think it was the second last one to get it to 17 nothing. But regardless, whatever which one, we had that drive stopped. He does some of his escape artist shit and turns it into, I think, 25, 26 yard scramble of a 66 total yards. So then you think, well, if you pull that one out, did we contain him? I don't know because without that one scramble, he was still somewhere around 10 for 40. So he's with some design runs because they did that very early with him. It's just strange. So by the time I got home after we were kind of processing this and listened to the little bit of a post game and all, I just pulled out the team stats. I don't necessarily know what everybody did individually, so so to speak. But I mean, you're talking about a 2019 game that literally went down to 0 seconds left on the clock to figure out who was going to win it. And when I started looking at the numbers, I found just some weird stuff. So I actually went back and said, how many offensive snaps did both teams have? Saints had 42. Commanders had 75. Total yards, Saints threw up 245, Commanders 326. We had 176 pass, 69 run. They had 189 pass, 137 run. Pretty balanced for them. But then when you look, because of the lack of snaps we had compared to the total yards, we averaged 5.83 yards of play. They averaged 4.34. So almost twice as many plays for them, almost a yard or basically right at a yard and a half more yards per play for us. There's one way to kind of keep yourself in a game, I guess. Turnover margin was -1, and it was costly because that was their second touchdown. That moved it to 14 nothing when Hayner threw the interception. But then you turn around and you go, well, we were +5 in sacks because we had 8, they had 3, and we could have had more. We there was a couple times we were still close to getting Daniels, just couldn't quite get him, and he got out of there. Now, those rushing numbers on the scrambles, like I said, there was 120 something yarder in that third quarter. It's like you're this close. You're this close the whole game. Not really the whole game, mostly in the second half. But even in the first half, down 14 nothing walking into halftime, a couple of times where One, um, Hayner, for the most part, struggled mightily in that first half, but at times showed little flashes, hit the nice little pass to Alvin um, to pick up. I think that was like our only first down in the first quarter, I think. But later on in the game, throws a dime right to MVS coming across the middle wide open. And let me tell you, if he catches that thing and turns upfield, it would have been very similar to that Cleveland play when he caught the crosser and housed it on a long touchdown. I'm not saying he would have housed it, but he'd have had a great chance to do it with his speed and his open field ability. Can't come up with the ball. And your quarterback finally stepped up and made a really, really significant throw on that play. There were others. We had some other drops, some bad decisions. Um, Particularly him. There was one I know for sure. Brother-in-law was saying he thought there was maybe two, but there's one I'm thinking of where he's getting pressure and he steps up in the pocket. And I remember this one vividly because he didn't really have much. And I'm like he's going to hear me or listen to me. I'm yelling, throw it away, throw it away. And he pulled the ball down and he actually stepped back and then like kind of like stepped into the sack and almost had to kind of turtle under it because he realized I think he got hit pretty hard, but there was a possibility he was about ready to get killed. And it's just like, man, you did everything right on that particular. Just looking at the field from where I was seeing it live, I didn't see anywhere where he could really had a chance to go with the ball. Throw it away, man. Just bounce it in front of somebody. Do what you got to do, but don't back up. And then all of a sudden, you a chance to not lose yard, survive maybe another place, keep somewhat of field position. You stumble back into a sack, kind of stuff like that. The interception, he never should have thrown that ball. And I had a bad feeling as soon as I saw him kind of like directing traffic. And I'm like, bro, you're not Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes. Just if you don't have anything, tuck it and run if you got it, because he had rolled out at that point, or just throw it away out of bounds again and just not try to put us in a negative play. Um, feel kind of bad for him, but for the most part, more times than not, he was over his skis. And even that didn't like stop us, affect us greatly. We kind of hung in there. We were concerned coming out of half that, hey, is this going to be a situation where we were in that 7 game losing streak where we teams just kind of gets lost at halftime in the second half? Didn't happen. And then it's really where we kicked in the fight. We started getting some fortunate things to go our way. Kind of clawed back in the game and gave ourselves a chance to win it. All that being said, the one that kills me when I look at it is time of possession. We had the ball for 19 minutes and 10 seconds. They had it for 40 minutes and 50 seconds. That stat alone, combined with a -1 in turnover margin, where you gave up 7 points in the only turnover of the game. How in the hell were we ever in that game? I I can say this much. We'll talk about it later because before I start getting to your questions, I see Northern's lining up a bunch. Um, Part of the positive takeaways when I get to in a little bit is the fact that they didn't get beat down and give up. And they fought their way and they got back in here some kind of way and gave themselves a chance to win. And considering, you know, having to start the young quarterback, having to bring the other one in off the bench, try to spark the team and all that stuff, that this could have went south very badly. Dome could have been cleared out by, picture the Denver game. Could have looked like that at that point, and it didn't. So it's all that in mind. I am trying to stay. To be honest, we'll talk about it, but I'm trying to focus in on the positive takeaways that I can walk out of this game with because I think that's where the point we are in the season. Like there was almost no chance we were making the playoffs after the loss to the Rams. Still, numbers wise, we're kind of hanging around. I don't know if we've been mathematically eliminated today or not. I just feel like I don't. It's got to be almost minuscule if it exists at all, but I don't think it does. And honestly, we may have been. I just haven't checked to see yet. But like a positive takeaway, one I'm right off the bat is when I got the penalties. Now, grain of salt, because this officiating crew, both ways, Both teams have legitimate arguments about some of the stuff these morons pulled for 4 quarters. But this would be my argument that if NFL officials aren't drug tested before and after a game, watch this whole game and watch how they screwed up stuff left, right, in the middle. I don't know if they got anything right for 4 quarters. Maybe they did somewhere, but if they did, it seems like it was almost by accident. All that being said, we still only had 4 penalties for 36. They had 9 for 84. I'd be willing to bet legitimately calls and non-calls if they'd have called the game consistently like a good crew would have. And both teams probably would have been somewhere around 7 or 8, maybe. But at least even under that circumstance, you managed to. I don't know how you were going to figure out what they were going to call and weren't going to call because they were pretty inconsistent in some of their stuff. But you didn't let the hidden yardage kill you, and that was kind of a drive killer, even though it may or may not have been their fault or a drive sustainer to keep us going. I'm thinking of one of their Fowler's. He had one roughing the passer that were like, yeah, I don't know, but whatever. They threw the flag. There it is. But under those conditions, at least, again, didn't shoot ourselves in the foot and throw all kind of hidden yardage back in here because you just read the numbers. You couldn't afford to do that. You're 1 or 2 penalties away probably from never even being in the position you got yourself into with no time left. Biggest positive takeaway, it comes as no surprise to me, and I still can't understand why we didn't get him the ball at some points during the game, but I am really starting to believe that as long as we can keep him healthy, Kendre Miller is the running back we have that we can start building our running game around. I'd like to see him do it over the next 3 games, to be honest with you. At times, because look, you had Brian Robinson on the field, you had Alvin Kamara on the field in that game. Both is very good running backs, okay? But when Miller touched the ball, especially in that fourth quarter, when he made a couple big runs we needed him to make, brother-in-law kind of mentioned this too when we're talking about. He's like, he just looked like he had a little extra in a couple of those runs than they did. It's like that first step, a little explosive, whatever you want to call it. They looked good for the most part, running the ball at times, and sometimes they got stacked up, and then Alvin ended up getting hurt and leaving the game. But then they were, and he took his lumps. First couple of carries he had, I think he had his first 2 carries, he netted 0 yards, and took one later on in the drive on a great defensive call by the Commanders when they stuffed him near the goal line. But for the most part, every other run he had was a lot like a lot of the runs he had in the Giants game last week, where it's just like that first step. He was able to make people miss that looked like they had a shot on him, get through the hole, pick up yards. Like I said, it's easier to see live than it is on TV when they have that little explosive giddy up all of a sudden. Looks like he has that, and he still runs with power. He's got pretty decent size. It's a lot to like about the guy. We need, I feel like going forward, even if Alvin, is okay and he's ready to go to Green Bay Monday night and play. And again, I talk about red line and running backs where you just drag them down to nothing. Long season for Alvin. You're not really, probably not going anywhere after the Tampa Bay game in Week 18. Let's give the keys to Kendre in the running game. He is my biggest positive takeaway today, without a doubt, from what I saw from him. Even again, limited. So I think he only had 9 carries for 46, somewhere around there. Spencer Rattler, positive takeaway for him coming in the situation he did. It told brother-in-law on the way home. I wish I was in the locker room exactly how it went down. I think he said post-game, I thought I heard a blurb that there was like a few seconds left to go before the half. He knew he was going to replace Haener. But even on that first drive, we're down 14-0. They get the ball first. They start driving. It really looked like for a while, crap, we're going to be down 21-0. Defense kind of stiffens. And it wasn't necessarily that I thought they were laying down. I thought they were still trying to hang in there. And then hold them to the field goal, kickoff. Rattler comes out on the field. The dome itself felt energized. I think we were a little bit like feeling like we're down 3 scores, that we have no shot. And he came in, and I think it was a feeling of, and this is why I wish I was in the locker room, to wonder team kind of got the same feeling or not, just going, like, we don't know if he's going to be able to do anything and help turn this around, but it was like we had hope and we kind of got a little. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think it was pretty by any stretch with him playing in the second half. I don't necessarily think it was always efficient. I think he finished 10 for 21. He also, like Hainer, had a couple drops mixed in there. Um, threw for 130 something, threw the touchdown, stayed away from negative plays for the most part. So at least we weren't stalling or going backwards, even when we really couldn't go forward on some of those drives. I'll tip it to the Commanders that any of their fans came back for this one. Yeah, there may have been a couple marginal calls that we got in favor on that couple of those to kind of help sustain those drives. And we'll kind of get to that effect on the last positive takeaway. So I'll just leave it at that for the moment. But as far as Rattler, he was at least effective. Hainer wasn't. And I'm not here to play the blame game about whether it was Hainer, what was going on. But just in the totality, I think we can all agree our offense was not effective and not really operating with Hainer running it in the first half, but yet it was with Rattler in the second half. Again, not pointing fingers at anyone, not saying anything, just the reality of all of a sudden the ball started moving. We started making some plays. We started putting points on the board and climbed back in the thing. The last thing on him, and again, I'm not taking shots at anybody. This is just real. We played a game a couple of weeks ago. We lost where our quarterback could not get the ball on a receiver on a fourth down. It was the last play of the game. You got to get rid of it in whatever, but you got to give yourself a chance that somebody can catch it, get in the end zone, so you can try to tie the game up. He had the same opportunity, and it was clutch last play, same situation. Boom, makes a throw. Moreau touchdown. 2-point conversion was the same thing when we decided to go for it. Does what he has to do. Boom, puts a ball. I did catch that replay, and the two takeaways I got from that one is you might have been able to call defensive holding or interference on the Washington defender, but with that being said, I think that was a catchable ball that Juwan Johnson he just couldn't hang on to, even in spite of the fact that there was some handsy stuff going on as the ball was coming in. He did his job on those two plays. One of them, tight end came up with it. The other one, tight end didn't. And again, not blaming anybody, but just saying a fact of life. He gave us the chance to win the game. And that's what we were asking for when he came in at 17-0. And he was effective in that. And I think that's kind of shows a Darren Rizzi leadership decision, even though it was maybe late in the second half or at halftime rather, and he found out, and maybe that was by design. They didn't want him to think about it, so they had made the decision. They said, we're just going to tell him right before we go out so he can't get in his own head for 10 minutes while we're waiting for the second half to start. I don't know, not in the locker room, but this goes back to like the fan reaction when he walked out on the field. I'm wondering if the team just had that little shot of, I'm not saying that they're pro Rattler and, non-Hainer. Just saying, I think it was a feeling in the heat of the moment of trying in a battle of trying to win a game. Things aren't going well. You're fighting it to keep your footing, and then you rally around somebody. And in this case, it was Rattler. I think the rally might have even started once that decision was made. And it was nice to see, because how many times over the last few years, very similar circumstances, for whatever reason, they still rolled the name starter of the week, and this it goes back several seasons over a couple of different quarterbacks. You still rolled the same guy out there for the second half going, man, what are you doing? Yeah. You get it when an elite quarterback has a bad half, you're not sitting him down. But when you have non-elite quarterbacks, and that's basically what we've had since 2020, when they're struggling as bad as Hainer was in the first half, you got a guy you can go to. I think in these situations, you've got to be willing to pull the trigger and go, let's see. He made the call, and I think that was an adrenaline shot across the team. I think that's a very positive takeaway. He's got the balls to make that call and to do that. And I hope no matter how this works out, the rest of the year of who's playing who. If it's a reverse, if they start Rattler Monday night and he looks ineffective as Haener, and at halftime they make the call to bring Haener in and he rallies the team, I'm fine with that too. But I think in this situation, you're trying to find out a whole bunch about both of those young men, about their ability of what you can get out of them to be NFL quarterbacks. Ain't nothing wrong with battle testing them and see how they come back. I think he did the right thing. Obviously, you know, we ran off basically when Rattler got in and took his first stab. We were down 17-0. The game finished 20-19. So there was definitely an uplift, an uptick there. Rattler doing what he was doing. Like I said, it wasn't necessarily pretty and wasn't necessarily super efficient, but it was effective enough to give us a chance. And I think Rizzy did some stuff. I think he's been doing some stuff in all these games, even the one last week with the Giants. I thought he could have did a better job as a head coach in some of those situations, especially in the first half. But I think he's doing enough. He's at least effective. We're seeing something we really haven't seen in a couple of years from him. So I'm taking that as a positive takeaway. I don't know where that leads us in the future, but at least you got something. Even if it's only for the next 3 games where you're trying to develop and figure out some stuff about these young players and you're getting this team to fight and want to play and want to keep winning, even though their season's going to roughly end as soon as the Tampa Bay game ends in week 18. Kind of a reinforcement. Position coaches make a difference. It's another positive takeaway. 8 sacks today. And there had been some lamenting that our pass rush wasn't that good. And to be fair, the last few weeks, since Rizzy took over, it basically Grantham was promoted, I guess, to a new position. They tried to jazz it up. It didn't sound like a promotion, and he's already left the team because he's going to become Oklahoma State's defensive coordinator. But they bumped up Brian Young to the defensive line coach. And there seems to be a turnaround there because since that switch was made, while the numbers didn't, and I was getting aggravated. I live stream or post game last week. The pressure rate, some of our guys were bringing, it seemed like Brazil was the only one that could get close to quarterback and actually get him on the ground. And like Granderson, Young, even some of the other guys, they could get close, but they couldn't. Pressure rate's only so good for so long before sooner or later, if you're not sacking a quarterback, what are you really accomplishing? Today they were closing the deal and they were getting to Jayden Daniels. I knew we could probably bring a pressure rate like we had been the last couple of weeks, and I was expecting it to be empty again. Well, we might sack him once or twice. 8. Thank God. We don't get 8 sacks. We are going to get blown out the building. If you want to talk about trade-off of big plays, like Robinson's 20-yard run on the Daniels 26, whatever it was, yard scramble, the big pass plays that they hit, McLaren coming up with 70 plus yards on the day and 2 touchdowns. The kind of stuff you figure, man, we've lost the game 35 to something, and at least the defensive line with the pressure finally started closing some of this stuff up and getting guys on the ground, getting Daniels on the ground 8 times. And like I said, there were a couple more that were close. That if you close the deal on those, I mean, it's a legitimate thought. You could have walked away with a 10-sack day today. Still, 8's pretty damn good. In post game, Cam Jordan, I read the quote. I didn't see the article, so I'm kind of taking this from Catherine Terrell's tweet. So hopefully it's accurate, but I trust Cat. But Cam basically said obvious difference between going from Grantham to Young is it's obvious difference is going from X's and O's coach to someone who played the game and letting guys play and trusting them. I don't exactly know what that means, but I'm going to do my best to interpret that and read in. And I think almost like, is it just Young's like, look, let's forget about all that stuff and just play. Just go after the quarterback. We're going to call the play, use your technique, do all your stuff, but possibly even scrapping some of the fronts, some of the looks, whatever, just getting it to the point where whether it's simplifying things, making some tweak and changes, I don't know specifically. That's what I say. I'm trying to read into this, but it almost feels like as an ex-player, next defensive lineman, a pretty good one in his own right, Brian Young is like, I just need to get you guys to the point where I can unleash you. So you can get the quarterback to the ground because obviously you're getting close, but close ain't gonna win us nothing. We need to get this number up. They got it up today, and probably the main reason why we were still in the game. The last thing, and this kind of goes back to a couple of the points we talked about earlier in the positive takeaways. Look, right now, Commanders are a playoff team. They're a wild card team. Don't know how their schedule plays out. They've got the Rams, I know, like right on their behinds, but they're close. They're definitely a playoff caliber team to be this close in one of those 7 spots with only 3 games left to go in the season. We obviously are not a playoff team, but talking about all the stuff that went on in this games, the big plays that were going back and forth, just some unlucky breaks here and there, both sides. The shitty refereeing that was affecting both teams at just some of the wrong spots when it did happen, when they either blew a call or didn't make a call or forgot to check how much time's on the clock or whatever. Um, both of these teams today, just none of that got to them. Like, bad things were happening. They were shaking it off. They were fighting through it. Um, various points in the game. The big momentum shifts. I mean, they had us in the first half. There's no doubt about it, and had a chance to put us down in the third quarter. We kind of weathered the storm, got through, and we started getting momentum on them, pushing them around a little bit, starting to move the ball, score some points. They were struggling. They were still moving the ball, but we kind of lock it down and keep them off the board. That's how you get into that all of a sudden we're down to the wire in the last really 4 minutes of the game because they were on a 4-minute drive to try to go up 2 scores, didn't get the field goal. We get the ball on a less than 2-minute drive, trying to get down there and get the touchdown, which we did. And in all honesty, before we scored, I told brother-in-law, sitting next to me, I was like, if we score a touchdown, we got to go for 2. Just kind of my gut feeling on the momentum and everything. I thought we could win the game right there. Rizzy agreed. Apparently, we were both wrong. We just came up short and walk out of there with a 1-point loss. But you went toe to toe with a playoff team. They held their own. They're on the road, even though they brought a lot of fans with them. And at times, Saints fans were quiet and they were doing a lot of cheering. Team shut that down, got back in the game, and the fans got on board. And it was, let me tell you, late in that game, Saints fans were doing a lot of cheering, and all of Washington, because we are the visitor sideline, all the Washington fans around them, God bless them, all nice people, had some fun with them. They were being real quiet. They were worried. Up until the point that 2-point conversion didn't convert. They were sweating bullets. So I take that as a positive sign that you kind of, and I'm not saying we are a playoff team because obviously we aren't, but you brought that kind of playoff attitude that while you're going up against a wild card team, you kind of battle through it. And at a certain point, the Rams could also sneak in and they may even take Washington's spot as a wild card team. You kind of did the same thing with the Rams. I got to call that a positive takeaway. We haven't seen anything like that in years coming from a team. And this is a team, look, it is flawed. They seriously lack some NFL talents at some spots, or at least NFL depth, that if the one guy we have goes down, we're struggling to fill the spot. We dealt with a lot of BS on the field, off the field this year. All that gets, you know, if you want to be a playoff caliber team, all that stuff, all that noise affecting the outside, all the stuff going on in the field that's just not going your way. What's the saying? Flush it and clear it. Forget about it. We just got to move on to the next play. And I saw that today. Even when we were struggling in the first half, I could still see at times where something went bad and we were trying, just move on. Let's go. Let's fight through it. Let's keep going. So if nothing else, I hope that's getting reinstilled in this organization this year. This carries through the next 3 games. We have to get it to carry through the next 3 games. Start rebuilding that one, our rebuild on that in 2025, because I think something we've been sorely missing for years. We've kind of rediscovered in some shape or form. We've got to put that in the foundation and make sure we strengthen it. So, all in all, I mean, it sucks we lost. It sucks we just had a chance to pull a really big victory. I think that would have been a real big shot in the arm, especially in kind of the talking about rebuilding the culture and the foundation and all. But at the same time, I know there's stuff out there we did badly. I know there's stuff that killed us in this game that if we could have taken away, we would have walked out with a win. But to the very least, we got it down to the last play and gave ourselves a chance. So we have to build on that. We have to take that same attitude into Green Bay next week and just we want to be the spoilers because they're another playoff team. Hell with that. We're going to beat you, and it's gonna screw your season up some kind of way. We hope. That's what I want to see from this team going forward. I think I saw an awful lot of that today, especially late in the third and all the way through the fourth quarter. With that, we'll turn it over to you guys. Yep, I saw that one earlier when you I had to come in and do something in here, and I was like, it was inept, and I'm not, especially on the offensive side. At times, it was just weird. It was because we could hit a run, we could do something. We had a hole, we get back through it. Then he gets blown up in the backfield, or we throw an incompletion, or we can't get a ball off, and then suddenly, like I said, put a dime on MVS who can't catch it. But like we didn't fold because all of that ineptness going on. So at least there was that because I, I I was worried we were going to collapse at halftime in the dressing room, come out collapsing, and before we knew it, we were down 28-0 midway through the third quarter. And like I said, it'd be a Denver situation. The dome just starts emptying out. No, he definitely wasn't playing his best. Absolutely not. And my sister asked me earlier about this. Was it coaching? Was it? And I'm like, I think it just. I look. I felt like we wanted them to have the ball first. Said they won and deferred because I even told brother-in-law that I'm like, I almost want the game to start and get into a flow with him on the sideline, ready to come in and just kind of instead of having to jump in there right away. And he looked shaky from the start. Like I said, he'd get his feet under him a little bit, and then something would happen, and it would just and he could never really get momentum. So I don't know if that's coaching so much, or if it's just he was off a little bit, or maybe a little hyped, or a little more adrenaline, or something, and it just he never quite got right or in sync or anything. And then like the interception, I think he got to the point where he was trying to make plays and starting to force balls or holding them too long when he had a shot, but he had to get rid of it real quick. So, kind of replacing him too might have been to protect him a little bit so he doesn't um he can kind of reset because I think what you saw from Rattler when he got it in there in the second half after the 3 games and I mean he regressed from game 1 all the way down to game 3 in those 3 games. He kind of has been sitting since then. Kind of a little bit of a reset. Let's see if we've got him going in the right direction. You know, I don't know how it's going to play out, but the best thing is we got to get as much looks as we can from both of them right now. Truly. Yeah, I was at the game. I didn't know if you knew I was at the game. I don't know if you saw me on TV or not, but yeah, actually, I was enjoying the game. If that was for me, I'm not sure who AN is. Yeah, they had a little bit of that today on several different. There was even some bizarre play. That's another thing for Hana. There was a couple of those in the first half where one right in front of us. I think he remember if he got sacked or if he just got drilled trying to throw the ball, but it's a little hazy to remember. But one of our tight end like rub plays where they rub the defensive end and then he slides out. Nobody picked him up on the slide. I don't remember which tight end was. I think it was Foster Moreau. Was out like broke out because there was nobody there. He was sliding out to the check down. We saw that earlier in the year and used it effectively. Nobody slid out, whether it was Penning or supposed to be somebody else to pick up the end coming in, which I think was Fowler, who And it was just all disruptive timing off on a play that, like I said, we'd run early in the year several times that we always had good success with, and it was just off. So, yeah, I mean, it at time, and then they'd make an unbelievable catch or whatever. So it just one of those games, and there was a lot of that going on. Because like I said, MVS has the big drop in the first half on Hayner, makes a couple clutch catches later in the game. Literally a couple, because I think he had 2 catches on 7 targets. Uh, I I don't still don't know what AEN is, but yes, we don't think the Giants bad. We know the Giants are bad. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna do what he's gonna do. I thought he always was making a case for head coach, and he, all said and done, it's gonna get as it was described to me earlier today. We were talking about when you start talking about who's gonna be the head coach, what's the front office gonna look like, how we're gonna fix the salary cap, what head coaches are actually interested in this job, and he's definitely one. He could be the only one before this is said and done. It's like a big Jenga puzzle. You're trying to pull the pieces out to figure out, what's your next move. And, you know, I don't even know what the first piece is. But to that point, you have at least one guy currently in the building who the players respect, who looks like he's at least as part of some of the stuff we wanted to address culturally and also address some changes that needed to be made. He's willing to do it. He's got the guts to just walk in. We're changing this. We're changing that. I'm hoping he's got the guts that when changes don't work, he's going to go. You know what? I was wrong. That didn't work. We'll change it back, or we'll change it to something else. Whatever you have to do. Um, Not complacent by any stretch. Any measure at all. Hopefully that feeds into his players and no complacency. Be accountable. Hey, when we screw up, we're going to let you know. That sort of thing. I think a lot of that is being instilled in this team. And he's getting an audition. There's coordinators out there who are, been doing video series on him. Everybody's convinced he's going to be a head coach someday, which doesn't necessarily mean he will be, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to suck or he will be and is going to be awesome. Just none of that is unknown, but at least he is a guy that you getting a real time look at on being a head coach, albeit in an interim half the season basis. So he hasn't done anything horrible to put X's in certain boxes with him. He at least keeps more he shows. You're going, there's some stuff there. There's some stuff there. I think we need how it all plays out. Once the season's over and we start getting ready for 2025. That's the big question. But he hasn't done anything where at least in my opinion you could go, no way. Just let's hurry up, get the season over with, get him out. He's shown some ability. Um, I'm related to a bunch of people who have season tickets. That's how. And I only get to go when somebody can't, and they'll call me and go, "Hey, we have a ticket. You want to go?" We're like, "Yeah, I do." Like I found out late Friday night on this particular that somebody was going to miss. Yeah, and this is the grain of salt thing with Daniels. It's like definitely a difference in the game. Their third down conversion rate, I didn't look it up, but I guarantee it's got to be over 50%. And I know ours was well south of that. Difference in the game when you come down to 1 point. But at the same time, watching him do what he can do, sometimes you just feel lucky. It was only 11 carries for 66 total yards and no touchdowns, where you feel like he easily could have taken those. And Lord knows we played some quarterbacks with lesser ability where they turned 11 carries into way more yards than that. So it's just kind of one of those things like It could have been better. It should have been better. But at the same time, I'm looking at it going, it could have been and should have been worse in some circumstances. So, I mean, is what it is. I think if you get really and truly think if you get any type of offensive points and spark in the first half, that would have helped a lot too. But since you didn't, the next thing you had to do was just not let them wind up with 40, almost 41 minutes in total time of possession. A lot of that had to do with trying to control Jaden Daniels. You didn't do it enough, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say. You needed to do it more. You had to if you were trying to walk out of here with a win, and you came close. I saw him run up and down the field a couple times on covering kicks. So, and I think he might have been on one of the punt coverage teams. So no, he was a little busy today. I'm kind of interested. Well, I don't think Hayner that's his strong suit, and I think you just kind of want to use him on a rollout. I know Rattler said after Carr came back in an interview that he thought part of his problem was um, doing his 3 starts was not recognizing when he needed to run, when he needed to get rid of the ball, like that decision making process. I'm trying to think today. I think there was one before one of the field goals where he rolled out to the right. I think that was Groupie's 51-yarder. Rolled out to the right. It seemed to me, and again, I haven't watched replay, so I don't know this for sure because we had the conversation that I was like, man, tuck that thing and run and get upfield, slide. I thought he could have gotten at least 5, maybe more, depending. Cut that down to distance in half because I think that was like a third or second and 9 on that, and he threw it away. Because I'm thinking if you get it close enough on 4th down, we were, go for it because it was still a two score game at that point. But it's like Brunlaw sitting there going, yeah, but you kick the field goal, you get it back to a potential 1-score game. I was like, I know, but I don't know if we can get the ball back twice. We were kind of having that conversation, which the fact that he didn't do that, and I thought that was one opportunity that he could, and you never know. Now I'm saying all this again from what I saw live and not watching the replay once, and there may have been somebody I just didn't see that was literally 2 yards away from him when he did that. So grain of salt, but I get your point here going a little bit. And I think he can run a little bit, especially getting him to the outside. And I don't know if we really tried because I don't even remember that was the design rollout or if he had to scramble out of there. But now that being said, he looked comfortable in the pocket for the most part. Um, so if he's working, trying to stay there and win games from there, I get it. But I think he does have some ability to scramble around and run a little bit. Yeah, well, you just hate our tight end, so I'm sorry that comment doesn't move my needle one way or the other. Me? Probably not, especially since I didn't drive. I was the passenger, so I had no command over when we were and weren't leaving. Well, that's the normal, but these guys just like I swear to God, they must have drank shroom tea or something before the game. It was, and I mean they were like I've been at games where you have like 2 or 3 people in the stands around me on an obvious holding call they don't call. Go, hey, that's holding. Today was one of those when like the whole freaking section would yell it that they didn't, and that was going both ways because, like I said, they had a lot of Washington fans around us. So at any given moment, and I don't even know how many times this happened in the game, where you had like 1,000 people for one team around us going, "Hey, that's holding, throw the flag!" Like almost like it was rehearsed. It was so obvious, and no flag coming out. Then and offensive and defensive both, like defensive holding. There was a couple times it's like I know we had 2 possible ones in the end zone, one on that 2 no flag. And to be honest with you, there were several times I'm looking at it going, man, we were a little handsy on that play. Glad they So I don't know. I just and then every now and then they call a hold on somebody. I think one got wiped out on pinning that they called. The one on Patrick in the first quarter, Lucas Patrick. The one replay we saw, and that kind of happened in front of us. We didn't see it live, and then we didn't after on the replay. We're like, unless there's an angle there that shows something we didn't see, it's going. How was that holding? But that's what we were dealing with all game. So, and that was Baby Hockley. That was Sean Hockley's, and I'm like, his dad's got to be very disappointed the effort from the referee and crew in that game. Thank God, thank God. Don't even remember who that is, who was, and Shockey was Shockey. He just happened to be very good for us. The basically that kind of 1 year in the Super Bowl run, but yeah, I kind of thought he flashed it last year. I was hoping to see him this year. Got to keep him healthy, whatever's going with that. Um, I also, whatever the whatever the issue was that apparently was with the air wasn't, I don't even know. But at that point, but it just like Rizzy saying, um, he wasn't the head coach when all that was going on, and he's Miller's got a clean slate with him. Fantastic. Could we try to get him somewhere around 15, 18 touches a game over the next 3 games? And let's just see where that takes us, how it looks, and can he handle it? Because there is that whatever that injury history is, it's floating around there. We need to know, hey, are we getting him past that? Uh, uh, Miller passed the ball. Well, I'd rather one of the quarterbacks do it and Miller just run it. Eh, There's a lot of things Carr's record's not necessarily good at. So yeah, I got it. Well, no, it was less than 50. I'm not impressed. I don't know anybody who would be, just like you probably lose all privileges. Um, that would be the part where it wasn't efficient. Uh, Efficient would be 60, 70%. That's where the efficiency is coming in on completion percentage. But he was effective because he made plays. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to give me a quarterback that's going to complete 40% of his passes, but we're going to win games as opposed to somebody who can complete 75 on checkdowns and meaningless plays and we lose, then I don't care so much on the completion percentage. So in this case, we were moving the ball finally and scoring points. So you just kind of living with the fact that it was sub 50%. It was a dirty dogfight game. So whatever's effective, if you got to poke them in the eyes, poke them in the eyes. Yeah, absolutely terrible, Northern. I'm just whatever. He got a half. Rattler got 3 games. In both circumstances, in relief work, Hayner was and when he had to come in Kansas City after car injury, and he was serviceable, looked pretty good in the Denver relief. Rattler came in, looked better in the relief, and so I mean, look, if anybody's making a decision based on the amount of games they both played this year, keep in mind our game plan was apparently we thought Carr would never get hurt because you had 2 guys battling for the backup quarterback going all the way into the season, and at no point did you do anything to prepare them for the event. Hey, that guy may hurt, and one of you guys may have to go in and play several games as a starter. You can do that with veteran quarterbacks and probably get away with it. If you need rookie or near rookie quarterbacks to play, you know, you got to get them prepared to do it. You and again, this is going back to my sister asking me as a coaching. In a circumstance, it could be because nobody has still gotten them prepared to go out and be a starter. And not that it's easy as coming in as a backup, but regardless, if you're going to want 4 quarters out of any of them for any substantial amount of time, and the thing is, there's once NFL guys, coordinators, defenders start getting a little film on players, then you got to worry about the adjustment period because they figure some stuff out and it's going to affect their scheme and play calling, and then you have to make the adjustment on your end so they can't do that to you. It's a lot to throw on them. So I'm not enamored with the numbers. I don't really care. What I want to see them be able to do is just get better, however bad they are when we've got them out there. Because I'm not expecting either one of these guys to suddenly become Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson or even Derek Carr. What I want to find out is one day could they become a Derek Carr or a Kirk Cousins? And then could they become a Josh Allen and a Lamar Jackson? And then can we keep moving them up the ladder? Or where's the ceiling? This is the conversation we should be having about them and going and get them ready to play. Do we even want to try if we try to move on from Carr? Is one of these two guys the guys we're going to turn the key? Are they our Aiden O'Connell to get us through a season that we know is going to be bad? But while we're doing it, we're just going to dump salary, cut players, fix our problems, suck it up. Hope there's a quarterback available to draft. Or do we get low enough this year and go, well, Cam Ward, we're going to try to make that play? It's a lot going into this, but you have to decide exactly what you have on your roster out of those three and who's coming back. Nope, I don't. I think there's ample evidence of it doesn't get any worse than in the desert. Your guy throws 2 pick sixes in the first half, and the oblivious coach, when the sideline reporter on his way to the locker room asked him, "Well, what did you tell your quarterback?" And he said, "Oh, just keep doing what you're doing." If you ain't gonna pull a guy, that's it. You're never gonna pull a guy at that point. I have not seen enough of Green Bay running Love getting out to judge that. I've seen a shit ton of Jaden Daniels doing it. I know he's very, very good at it. So do with that answer what you may. But I have no real Jordan Love reference. Or not enough. I mean, I can't even remember ever seeing him running out and scrambling or doing anything. I just don't catch a lot of Green Bay games. I thought he was the guy that used to play with Frisco, but he could be. There was a Brian Young and a Bryant Young, and I think we've got Brian without the T, I believe. I think he was Frisco, but he could be the other one. I have to look him up. May have played for both. I don't really know, but I know he played a while in the league. And then got hurt, knee injuries. There was an article a while back somewhere, and I never read it, but I knew it was out there about kind of his path from NFL player to coaching and all, and how long he's been doing it, combined player and coach. And just when Rizzy gave him the chance when he made the shift, moving on from Grantham, that's kind of when it showed up. So we got the second pick in the 2024 draft. Maybe it would have helped, but I can't prove a negative. I don't know that for sure. And if DA was a coach, I'm going. See, you're already starting one foot in the wrong direction to make that a reality. Could he have overcome it? I don't know, but and the real thing is would we have? Yeah, basically did what Bobby Slowick did with um, CJ Stroud last year, that Sean Payton's doing with Bo Nix this year, and definitely Cliff Kingsbury is doing with Jane Daniels, which is realize they're actually rookies. tailor your offense, your play calling, structure your team, everything around that fact, especially early in the season. And as they get a little better and comfortable and start, see, that's how you prepare for a young guy to become a starter over a long period. Is you pretty much have to start in March and April when you realize that's going to be your. If we would have taken that track with them, so you make sure you give them a chance. And here's an example of what you don't do is basically what Carolina did last year with Bryce Young and numerous other NFL teams. So it was going, here you go, kid. Here's the playbook. Here's the ball. Go win games. So you'd have to tell me which track our organization would have taken in trying to develop that guy into what you think he's going to be, which I think he's got a, you know, he's got a great shot so far. Caleb Williams, I think Chicago's done him dirty as much as they tried to help him. I think they've done him some dirty and some stuff too. So, you know, it it's anybody who believes you're just relying on one guy in the NFL to come in and save you in today's NFL, he better be really, really, really good if you're not gonna support him and put the team around him that he needs. But more importantly, if you don't, this part and well, I don't. I they dial up a play. I don't think you pick who it's going to. I don't think that was a one receiver option with the roll, but I don't know. Again, I didn't see the play, but regardless, complain all you want. You're wrong. Our tight ends aren't as bad as you think they are. Bottom line, end of story. You're not moving me off of that, and I'm going to start ignoring when you do stuff like this. Yeah, I wouldn't surprise him because what are you going to do about it? Um, although I did, because like I said, that was the um the late hit on a roughing the passer on Fowler, and the next play was I think it was a running play with Kendre Miller when he did his he tackled Kendre for a loss, and then because he has that flex thing he does after a sack. So after the tackle for loss, he did it, but he was facing the referee who called him for the um the roughing the quarterback who was running in that direction. And it's like, did he just taunt the official with that? And I'm like, yeah, I think he did. So I mean, it was like, you know, and I think that might have been why the he got picked on a little bit because I think he got flagged for something later in the game that you're like, really, maybe. But I think the ref remembered that and didn't give him the benefit of the doubt at all. He was ready to throw a flag. But I guess yeah, each in their own, they deal with it because one thing I don't see that you kind of used to is the lobbying of they still do it, but it seems to be a little more low key than it used to be because it not too many years ago at times it seemed like it was almost like you were waiting for flags to come out on players. So I guess they're you're right. I think they just kind of got numb to it because no matter what we say or do, these guys just suck, and we'll just have to deal with it and move on. Ah, I okay. I can't do it. I can't. Brother-in-law on the ride up to New Orleans today made me have conversations about the Billy Joes. I cannot do it twice in one day. Till somebody brings them up. I have successfully deleted that whole scenario from memory. But you just get me speechless now at this point with bringing up Billy Joes. And it's like, I look. I hope nobody does it because I think if it happens a third time, it's going to be like Beetlejuice, and one of them's going to show up on our roster. I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out because he put it out there that he learned a lot from that 28-3 episode and the way it ended in Atlanta. We'll see. I think we heard kind of a lot of the same thing from DA about the Raiders job and then moving on from here. But I don't know anything really um, in this game where I would go. maybe the 4-minute offense towards the end, he kind of put him in a position for the longer field goal that they ended up missing. Maybe because I think we were all talking that would have been the point. Maybe you just jam Brian Robinson in there 3 in a row and line it up, try to take field goal, go back up 10 right there. Especially since we had sent the message, we started calling the timeouts there right before the 2 that we were going to, if necessary, burn our all 3 of our timeouts before the 2-minute warning. And we had some incompletions in there. They tried to throw it. The penalty was holding or whatever it was that backed them up again. That sort of thing going. Yeah, maybe that's the point where let BR carry it 3 times, see if he gets us another first down. If he doesn't, then we're going to try to kick it from a shorter distance. Other than that, I don't know if I can really think of anything where truly both head coaches. I don't know if there's really anything like outstandingly, glaringly like in this game. I don't want to say it was a well coached, well played game, but I don't think there was any massive screw up in the coaching that I could see from being there. And it was well played at times because both teams, more so Washington than the Saints, could play really well and some good things were happening. At times they could do some not stuff so good, but it just, the way the game turned out, it turned into that close game all the way down to the wire. But ah, see, you need to send that before because I wasn't sure if you were talking to somebody else in the chat or what. I couldn't figure out if you were. Well, I did say that, but I didn't make the connection. You know, to he actually had to spell it out for me. Yeah, you can't do that to me. No, retire Mickey. As much as how about strip some responsibilities, especially as far as signing salary cap and bonuses and money and all, maybe away from him. Start there and see what happens. But I don't want to cut Carr because cutting Carr only shaves $1 million off the salary cap. If you're going to move Carr, you got to try to trade him because I think that's 11 or 12. It's a huge difference that we're going to need every penny of. So definitely not cut Carr. I'd have to say retire Mickey would be my 3. I'd be leaning towards hire Rizzy, but much as I just glowingly talked about him and a lot of stuff, like the Antonio Pierce thing in Raiders is still fresh in my mind because I don't think he's surviving this season, and I don't know if he was meant to be honest with you, if that wasn't just there. Because I don't know. It's just hard to sign off completely right now, I guess, on Rizzy right now. But 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, had you asked that question, and it wouldn't even entertained hiring an interim for a head coach. So, in all fairness, he is starting to change my mind, but I'm just not all the way there yet where I want to avoid, just going no interims, getting hired full time. We'd have had a better chance. I think some of those 1 losses we have a chance to win. Closer to 500 maybe. I think you could probably make that call because look, got the Atlanta win in 1 loss, has got to win because we basically been in a 1-score game. I should say 1-score game. I think every week he's been here, right? The exception being Cleveland, but that was tied going in the 4th quarter before we put it away. So beat Atlanta, you beat the Giants, you lose to the Rams, you barely lose today, kind of 2-2. I feel like at 50%, it's already better. It's got to be better than DA because DA's record against him was awful. So go back and count how many 1-score games we lost this year and maybe cut it in half. What does that add? 3, 4 wins, maybe? We're in the hunt. And depending on which ones you beat, like if you get who's somebody close to us right now? Rams. You get the Rams on that win, and you got the tiebreaker head to head on them because at that point at 7 wins, you're right there with them. So yeah, depending on which one, I guess you probably the right ones. Yeah, you probably have a chance to win, and you probably are that borderline playoff team you were trying to be over the last couple of weeks. I don't know, and like I said, there were thousands around us. They had a strong showing, and I did not see anybody with any of the hog stuff. The hog nose, none of that. So I don't know if that's really a strong thing with the Commanders or not. I don't really know, but yeah, I saw no references to the hogs anywhere there that I saw in the stadium. Yeah, but I mean, he is what he is. He was good when he was good. There were times where he really wasn't. Yeah, but if I say cat fight, that has a whole new possible double entendre context. So we're just not going there. We're sticking with dog fight. What did I say that? Then I should be drug tested. No, he does get hurt, but he's an incredibly tough bastard that will try to. I have to give him respect for that. That he will try to roll out and play through it. In some case, probably not the best idea, but I mean, can't take away his toughness on that. But he definitely picks up injuries. Yeah, I mean it's just a little different dynamic that he brings. Um, I don't know what it is. Swagger maybe that he had that Hayner kind of lost. I don't really know, but it just looked a little different. It felt a little different. And like I said, I wouldn't call it pretty, and I definitely wouldn't call it efficient, but it was fairly effective what he brought in. I forgot he used to play here as a quarterback. And we've had so many that I've watched from my memory that he's Schuler. I hadn't even thought about him in probably 30 years. Yeah, no, I get that, but just because he shows up on your team doesn't mean he automatically puts you in the playoffs. That lesson needs to be learned by everyone. Because if you don't do the stuff you need to do, because he's a rookie quarterback coming in to help him succeed, and really that's any quarterback, but especially a rookie, because he is less likely to bail you out of situations, mostly because he's a rookie, and rookies do rookie things. Now, a rookie doing a rookie things at a left tackle or the you know strong side linebacker or whatever is bad enough. But when rookies do rookie things at like quarterback, it can be really bad. So yeah, just have to be ready for the fact that you're planning on starting a rookie, and you're gonna have to live with the ups and downs of it. Guy like him, he seems to get a pretty quick grasp on what's going on. I think you say the same thing about Bo Nix, and I think they're kind of the two right now that are really um and I mean get a grasp on not just the playbook, but have an understand what the defense is trying to do when you walk up there. I mean, all the crap a quarterback has to go through before the ball is even snapped is mind-boggling. And it's tough enough to do at lower levels and you get to college, but you get to pro, it's just more and more getting heaped on. And you may be trying to run an offense and develop a quarterback at the same time. I think that's kind of what Sean and Bo Nix were going through and kind of turn that corner. But he's not going to be able to do it by himself. No rookie quarterback can. I think a lot of teams have put them in that position to do it. And well, you get yourself in trouble real quick with those guys. And the thing is, we have seen it. Fans will turn fast on a quarterback. Rookie high draft pick, I think sometimes are even worse than overpriced free agent veterans you bring in before fans just suddenly decide, oh, they suck. That's horrible draft. But you got guys that rebound, like Baker Mayfield was in that situation at one point. Geno Smith was at one point. Sam Darnold was at one point. Still not sold on Darnold, but he's having a pretty good year so far. Who's next on the list? Could be Justin Fields. He After he leaves Pittsburgh this year, he'll be on his third team, and that seems to be that where you bust, you go somewhere else, and then you wind up on your third or fourth team, and suddenly you wind up being the starter and you start playing better. I think a lot of that has to do was the guy didn't suck at all. It's just the team he went to just didn't know how to develop him, get him in there, and put him in a position to be successful. Yeah, and I'm not following too much on May. I always thought coming out, and like I said, I always had regency bias on Daniels watching him play for LSU the last 2 years. Um, I thought May was the second best guy in there. Williams, and that's just a hard one to figure out because it looked like for a while before things went to crap, he started slow. And I don't know if that was by design with Chicago because I really didn't see him play any of those early games, but I did catch him where he kind of went through that stretch. He was playing better. Then it kind of reverted. Shane Walden, I believe that was the OC, Shane Walden, or whoever it was, got fired week 9, 10, whatever. A couple of weeks before Eberflus got fired, which he was obviously part of the problem. And even on that Thanksgiving Day game, which Eberflus totally needed to be fired after that whole fiasco. But at the same time, at that point, you would expect a quarterback with Williams. So, like, 3-year college starter coming in as a rookie. He's now when was Thanksgiving? Week 12, whatever it was. Just you hoping by that time he's got the wherewithal to look up and go, shit, I got to call timeout. Or we're not going to get the playoff and we're going to lose the game, which ultimately nobody called timeout. They didn't get that bothers me going, you know, that says a lot about what we're talking about, what goes through quarterback's mind, what they have to be thinking about before the snap of a ball that matters so much before you even snap the ball enough to run the play. That's a prime example of it. It's like, man, at some point, look at the clock, play whatever, and call timeout because you had one. Not saying they would have won the game, but this goes back to what we're talking about. What Rattler did today. You just got to do something to put yourself in a position to try to win the game first. And when you blow that, then you have no chance to win the game. So, just as per example, how I think he's really, really good, but just I don't know what it is about him that I just keep looking at and going, I don't know. And who knows? A year from now, he may kind of work through all that, and he'll realize what everybody was looking at him for and made him the first overall pick. Oh, I think it could have been worse than that. Um, you're looking at roughly 21 points on 3 long passes that they just couldn't quite connect on. That we were beat like a drum on one of them, and I'm not sure which one it is. I did when I was going through Twitter, and the coming out while the game was going on. One of them, that they missed on the throw to McLaurin, who was wide open. They said on one side of the field, they said Dyami Brown on the other side was just as wide open, and he could have thrown it either place, and whoever was there catches it, it's a touchdown. So that's 21 right there. Plus, there's other examples but that's the thing. That's just the way this game went. They hit big plays. We got big sacks. Because you could say if we don't get 8 sacks, we get 2. It could have been 40-19. We may not even score 19. Just the weirdness of it, of one team basically having a really time of possession, Washington, really big statistical advantage. Yet the hidden yardage and out sacking your opponent 8-3 kind of offset some of that. But yeah, absolutely. They could have run us straight out the building. I'm hardly ever happy. I think I'm actually delirious. I'm just so tired after today. But this was a game, to Jack's point. If we'd have walked out the building, it would have been 40-19. It wouldn't have shocked me at all. And I don't know if it would have pissed me off because there is a difference between the two teams. And we're down 17-0 after the first series in the third quarter with no semblance of hope. And suddenly we had it. We kind of got it back. I'm talking about as fans. Um, and we kind of got it as we saw. It's like, holy crap, we might be able to climb back in this game. And at that point, I'm just like, make it respectable because I don't want to get blown out. So by the time it all played out, going back to the positive takeaways, the fact we got ourselves in that position, and unlike the Rams game when we got ourselves in that position, we actually were this close to making the play instead of taking a sack to end the game or whatever. So I'm just looking for progress at this point. And to me, that's even from 2 weeks ago to now, that's a bit of a progress against a team comparable. Because when it is all said and done, I think Washington and the Rams both maybe wild card teams, or they may end up fighting over that last wild card spot. So they're kind of in very similar spots, and losing 7 and then taking a loss today at 1. Just think you're kind of seeing some of the improvement we really wanted to see over this last stretch of hopeless. We're not going to win all 8 games, and sneak into the playoff part of the season. I think this is the takeaways and the good stuff we could get out of it. It's possible. There was always a chance that this was a trap game, but if you're up 17-0, you kind of feel like you're past the trap game point, But um, I I think we did some good things, and I think they had a few. One of them being that we kept getting their quarterback on the ground and getting them off schedule at least. So a missed field goal, didn't they? Yeah, late in the game. They ice that thing, go back up 10. That's probably it right there. We're not in this. So unlucky bad breaks happen. You take advantage of them when you get them. They did it early to us. So now they started looking towards Philly in the third quarter. Well, then shame on them. But I don't get the feeling this was a trap game because they came to play. It wasn't like they were horrible or anything. Yeah, in the first half. Yeah. No, I would never trade Carr for Rodgers. I don't want any part of Aaron Rodgers. Could be. I don't know. I don't know exactly how. I'm still like, if you saw the video, I'm like, Aaron Glenn thing is you got to bring him in the room and talk to him because what if people are correct? He is one of the next hot young things at head coaching, and I'm not looking so much at the X's and O parts of it, but is he going to be the Rizzy type guy that these guys are going to follow? You can rebuild the culture and all. That's the first thing I need to see. Then we need to see what that kind of stuff is. So I didn't know that much about Antonio Pierce as a coach. Um, or what he brought, but his name was not one of the names you would typically hear starting this time of season as the gonna be a head coach someday. Doesn't mean he wasn't capable. It's just kind of a head scratcher. But um, again, coming off the Josh McDaniels disaster they had going there, I mean, he might have been the right guy to turn it over to for the first couple of years and see what happens, and not going well for him. Um, yeah, I know. I need to stop doing that or call him something else. I'd say AD, but around New Orleans, that's almost as bad. So I can't go that direction. Um, I don't know if it's just Williams tomorrow. I don't know if he's going to be a Saint much after the next 3 games. I'm not really worried about that either. Yeah, I don't think that's an accurate statement at all. There, Northern. They had a chance to put us down where we couldn't get back in the game. They missed it, and then we came back and missed our chance to win it. But I don't know if I'd call that exactly we lost category type thing, especially when you're going to spot another team 17 points. It's like 56. Come on, he's not ancient. Yeah, I look, and the thing is, the two quarterbacks who's has two first names who we will not mention again. Um, you can trade Carr and wind up. That's a that type of quarterback is your replacement. There's no guarantees in life. Um, I'm just thinking about the done deal that was supposed to be the awesomeness of the Deshaun Watson trade, and thank God Cleveland came in and kept us out of that situation, because I could tell you for a fact right now, I'd much rather have Derek Carr than him. Or pulling Joe Flacco off the couch like Cleveland did, and then Indy having to use him this year. I'd rather have Derek Carr. Go through a list of quarterbacks that are actually getting starts in this league for a while, going, sheesh, it could be worse. But to your point, it could be better. The biggest problem I have with Derek Carr is his contract, what it's doing to our ability to fix our cap issues, because he's got the most movable money. It's really what it boils down to. Then you got to figure out how to replace him. But and the real reason why I wouldn't play him this year, as I said before, I do not want him to suffer an injury where he's going to miss off-season time and not be able to pass a physical, and we have to guarantee that $30 million to him next year, because our cap position gets a lot worse if that happens. So I'd just soon trade him before you get into that. Work on resetting the cap, and then work on finding the quarterback you want to bring in with whatever coach, whether it's Rizzi or somebody at whatever. At that point, let him start the clean slate. We know more information we know now than we knew before. So not saying it. You have to tell me who your coordinator is and what they want to do, but assuming, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that probably goes nowhere. Um, if Kubiak wanted to, Rizzi gets the job, Kubiak stays, and they have to sit down, and Kubiak goes, well, I would change my offense up a little bit. We would definitely be more of a moving pocket, rollout, design run, with Fields, looking to set him up with easy throws, that sort of thing. Then, yeah, if you're going to run kind of the version of the offense we're trying to run right now under Kubiak, under all those things being, I don't know if Justin Fields is going to help you a whole lot there at that point, or get you any better. And could, tough call. He is younger and would likely be cheaper, so we'd have that going for him. Well, you're not going to eat a cap hit. It's you cut him, you only save $1 million. So you still got to shave 62 million out the rest of your roster. And you just have some contracts that, believe me, I've tried to do the math on it. You could do it, but you do realize if you do, you're probably gonna shit. You might be chopping 30 players off this roster. So you basically starting out at that point with 20 something, which means, well, you're never going to have enough draft picks in the current draft to redraft your roster. So you're going to draft what you can draft, and you're going to be like all those UDFAs that we have on the taxi squad. They're all going to be starting in that case. And then you're filling all your backups with more of those UDFAs. Now, you probably don't have to do it for 1 year. That would probably solve your problem. But you damn sure ain't going to draft a quarterback and throw him behind that mess, because you're going to get him killed. So, I mean, there's limits to what you can do because of the position that we're in right now. But what it boils down to, and that's 63 million, I think, over projected over the cap. That's assuming the projection still holds at 276 million next year. So you you're going to have to be careful when you say eat the cap hit. It depends on who you're eating it with. You just don't have a lot of space to eat anything. Ultimate goal, if you do have to cut Carr, and I don't know how you do this. Best case scenario that you could do with him is cut that 63 million off without having to take any money from him and designate him post June 1st. So you can split his massive dead money between 2025 and 2026. There's a lot of gymnastics you got to do to get to that point. The trade would be the easiest route. Just clear up, free up, turn that 63 million to somewhere around 52, 51, 50, somewhere in there, and then start working on the rest of your roster and start rallying some guys up going, got to take pay cuts. Because if they don't take pay cuts, those are the guys that you're going to have to start eating cap hits on. But they just have a lot less money than Carr to be able to do that with. My 3 quarterbacks. I have no quarterbacks. Because if you're not on the right side of the cap, this is what happens. All those draft picks you want to use in 2025 to replace the roster, if you're not cap compliant, they're going to start taking them away from you. Plus, they're going to find the team. That's why. There's no if, and, or buts about it. That's why some people think it's fantasy football. Like I said, and you can just trade anybody to anybody. If your trade puts you on a cap hit that puts you over the cap, the league's not even going to approve it. They're going to, nope, because you're over the cap by virtue of making this trade. You can't do it. That's the thing everybody has to understand, that you can't. Well, I mean, you could, but you're going to lose draft picks, however many Roger Goodell in the league decides to want to take. And dear God, I don't want to put in Roger Goodell's hands our future draft picks on how many he's going to take. I think there was only one case of this ever happening to a team, and that's they lost. I think it was Baltimore years back when they first started doing this. Some kind of way got over the cap, lost draft picks, and got fined by the league, and that was that. So nobody's really tested that theory since, and you can't. You're not going to be able to do it. So you have to cut the money first before you do anything. If it's 63 million plus, you got to get rid of 63 million just so you can get to zero. And then you still can't sign anybody because you're at zero. And if you go over, you're under the cap, and the league's not going to approve the contract. It's not to keep Derek Carr, because you can't keep Derek Carr under his you're 63 million over right now. If he gets injured over these next couple of weeks and he misses off-season time, let's say he blows his knee out, needs knee surgery, and you're not going to have him until October at best of next year. That 63 million goes to 93 million, because right now there's $30 million of his contract that is not guaranteed. That would be due to injury like that. The second thing is the third day of the league. So if the league opens March 15th, it's March 18th, whatever, that 30 million would become guaranteed. So again, and you have to get that number down before then, but you'd have another 30 million of cap. So they have to restructure his contract or trade him or just cut him outright. And they would probably have to do it before June 1st. So you're just in a position where even to move on from him, you have to do it the correct way. The easiest is hoping somebody wants to trade for him. And you may even have to rework that contract to make him tradable to get that 30 million guarantee off 3 days after the league starts. More than likely what their plan is they're going to dump some of that money. He's going to take a pay cut. They'll probably dump some salary bonus on him, defer some of that to next year, or I don't know if he's got void years left where they can add more void years, but you're basically doing the same thing. You're kicking the can down the road another year when you do that, but you may be able to get, instead of I think his dead money's 51 million. You could probably work it to maybe you get that 51 million down to 41 million. So when you get to this point next year or before 2026, then you might be able to just cut him outright because you fix your cap problems by then. A lot of gymnastics and a lot of math involved to get to that point. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just, but you it's going to get kicked unless they're willing to just take the $1 million in cap savings, or they can restructure him for lower money. He takes pay cut. Don't think he will, but he could. And hell, he may even want out of here. Who knows? Who knows how? Because part of this is if you were going to trade him, can you find a trading partner? And what is that looking like right now? And you've got, including ours, 3 open jobs with potentially more. And then that's one of the things that every new head coach is coming into every new job. Who's my quarterback or who do I want to bring in? And just because everybody's hating on a quarterback doesn't mean he can't be useful because God knows Ben Johnson doesn't mind having Jared Goff right now. So Goff would probably be in the car conversation a couple of years ago. Probably should still be right now, but it's just Detroit's figuring out ways to win with him. A 7th round pick. But A, how are you getting any better? And B, what's the money situation? Because his contract is as shitty as cars. So I don't understand what that gains you. An older quarterback who's declining faster than Carr and is not going to really do you much in the money situation, man. Never say never. How did Denver cut Russell Wilson? I'm 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 not even really sure what you're asking there. 'Cause Russell Wilson was terrible in Denver, and I think if he and Sean would have figured stuff out, he'd still be there. But no, they just moved on. Sean put his foot down. So we're going young and we're rebuilding the offense. Meanwhile, Russell Wilson shows up in Pittsburgh and turns out, I don't know, doesn't suck as bad as everybody thought he did. Well, there may be more to blame than just him on that. Uh, Looking at you, Jeff Ireland, in the scouting department. So I don't know what's going on there. But regardless, if you're changing coaches, you're bringing changes to the organization. You might have to do it all the way around, especially a good one. Because I mean, like I said, Ben Johnson's put the tweet out there. Um, he's basically not going to be the GM's bitch, and he's expecting when he walks in for an interview, the GM's going to explain to him what went wrong with the organization and how they're going to fix it on his side. So I think that would be a logical approach on any coach you should hire right now, walking in and going, you're not going to put me in a bad position to fail. And talking about draft picks would be a huge part of it if you're one of the top coaches coming in that I want to have the conversation about. There's worse things in life. I don't know. Still didn't like what they never should have brought him in. They should have just that's the point where we're clearing the cap and doing everything else. But they'd still convince themselves that this roster was good enough and they would draft good enough that a Derek Carr type quarterback away from getting back to where we needed to be. And I think history's proven they were all wrong in that assessment. And I'm not the hugest Carr fan in the world, but I don't have this out now. It's just that polarizing thing. Everybody he either has his, and I'm in the reality of the middle of. Do I think he's ever going to become that elite status and take you to a Super Bowl by himself? Probably not. Is he the worst quarterback in the league right now? Absolutely not. It's just somewhere in the middle. How far are you going to be able to go with him, especially with the current roster you have and the coaching you have, and all is all part of it. Because everybody loves Ben Johnson, and I think we'd hired Ben Johnson. He walked in, he said, "Oh, hell no, Derek Carr's just as good as Jared Goff. I can win with him." I think the whole fan base that hates Derek Carr would now be hating Ben Johnson, even though prior to that statement they were like, "Oh, we need Ben Johnson. He could fix everything." I think that's the point of this conversation has gotten to. Yeah, pretty much every game. Denver didn't. They took the hit. They just had the ability to take it and get under the cap and do what they had to do. But look at Denver last year. Wasn't a very good football team while they were doing it. I mean, that was just all part in, but they cleared the money out. They just we're moving on. We're taking the hit. But you whatever that number is, come the opening of the league, you got to be under it when you do that. Yes, 84 million of what is it right now? 256 million. You're forgetting that it's you add them all up. So basically, 84 million towards the cap means of the 53 man roster, plus your practice squad, plus guys you got on IR, blah, blah, blah. So if it's, let's just say $284 million, we had $200 million left to pay the rest of those guys. So in the case of the Saints, you get rid of Cars, go look how much money Alvin's making, Ramchek's still making, Taysom's making, start adding them all up. Now, some of those fix themselves, but some of them don't. But then when you start kicking in their dead money, that's the problem. Taysom's scheduled to make $10 million next year. None of it's guaranteed. And you can't cut him because his dead money still associated with that $40 million contract. Remember that thing several years back? Is still floating around in there that you have to deal with. So you can't cut them all. Or you could cut them all, but the more you cut them and adding that dead money, that's your 63 million. It just keeps going up. So you could, but you're going to have to shave a bunch of other guys off. And you're going to probably look like Denver looked prior to this year. All right. I don't necessarily disagree, but math is math. Money is money. Bad contracts are bad contracts. Denver had one in Russell Wilson. We have about 10. It's not about one player. It's about how you're going to get the math to work the whole team. If it was just one player and that easy, yeah, cut him. It's not. And he has the most money to move and around to get you under that 63. Best case scenario, the league suddenly revenue goes up, and instead of a projected 276 million, it's 296 million. That 63 million over suddenly goes to 43 million over. You got something to work with there. Actually, I think Foskey costs you money if you cut him. You don't get a cap savings, if I remember right. Maybe not. It's his third year. Would be his third year. You might get a cap savings if you cut him. I'd have to go look because since he's not a first round pick, the way that works is a little on the guaranteed side. So after this year, he may not have any more guaranteed money. In which case, yeah, you can move on. Yeah. All I got to say is, as bad as our cap problem is now, I'm glad you're not running it. That we'd be 180 million in dead money to deal with next year. So, all right, that's it. I'm out of coffee, and it's been over an hour and a half. So you're gonna have to call it a night on this one. But Look, for the most part, just to wrap it up, I do really think that all joking and kidding aside, today could have been worse. It could have been better. You could have got out there with the win, but I'm just looking at it and going, 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, there was nothing positive going on with this team. And for better or worse, that's where you're at right now. Um, you got to make lemonade out of lemons. It's a cliche, but it's freaking true. So I mean, at this point, it's not going to be magic pixie dust. There's guys on this team that are going to have to play next year that are marginal, probably NFL talent that you may see on the field if they stay healthy as a starter for 17 games next year while you fix all this mess. So it is what it is. And if you're going to have to go that route, I would like for them to be as good as possible. Like for them, once you fix your roster, to maybe even stick around, and they are now been developed into NFL depth, at least going, well, okay, they're not going to start anymore, but they're paid for, they're done. There's no dead money. Let them ride the contract out. They go from being the start defensive end to in the rotation, backing up, that sort of thing. And I think you've got some guys on this roster hidden in there that you can get by with while you're trying to do that. So it's it's games like these when you look at it and you go, look, you probably found something in Kendre Miller. Um, you may have found maybe even a backup in Rattler. He may never be a starter for you, but you get him by on the cheap as he can become the uh the Gary Kubiak to whoever your future John Elway is or whatever, and stick around forever as the backup. There's value in that. And it's really what this team has to start doing is trying to find the value. And they got to start now, because the more value you find now, while you need everybody in the cheap, while you clear all those contracts out, if you can develop into football players, that's a bonus. Because if they become good enough to be an NFL starter, you got them on the cheap before you got to pay them. That's even better to fix your problems. So all along, since Rizzy came in, and I kept looking at it and go, yeah, we can go the pipe dream that we might win 8 games and make the playoffs and see how far this goes. But that ship sailed. So at this point, it's either go do something else till the draft or and not worry about it, or let's see if we can find positive takeaways in games like this. This has been a clear blowout. We got blown out 52-0. There would be none, other than we're probably to the point where, okay, then we have to really start cleaning house. But whatever salvageable needs to be salvaged in this, it's a mess right now. And the faster you do that, the faster you can fix it. When I see a game like this against a team that's right now a playoff team, and 3 weeks from now may still be a playoff team, and if they're not, they probably won't be that far out of it if they miss an improvement they've come in a year. I would settle for that next year once you start this whole problem that we got to fix. If you can even get that close with whatever talent you could acquire in. But for right now, he said, finding something in Kendre Miller. What do you really have in Rattler? Any of those young receivers that you brought in, it looks like they've all been shipped out for these veteran guys who come in. I think that tells you a lot if they can't find their way on the field. We're starting over there. Your young corners, you may have to go younger. Rico Payton, I still want to see him play out there and get snaps. Didn't do it, but Jean Charles came in when Kool-Aid went down. If Kool-Aid's down for any amount of time, well, then we may actually see more Jean Charles and some Rico or whoever else. But again, younger guys without big contracts, can they play? Let's see where it takes us. So I think that's the point where we're really at. And you got to find your hidden gem starting now. If there's any of them in here somewhere that you missed, you, if not, they're going to be on the move on list. And part of the problem is the money that you can't cut. There's a whole bunch of guys there that you could. So that may also be part of the equation. A couple more, and then at 1:45, I'm signing off at the drop of a hat. Um, uh, we'll see. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. And that's if that's too the thing about Green Bay is um I think a couple of years ago is the only time I can ever remember us. I don't know what our overall record is, but most of the time that I can think about that we went up to Green Bay to play, no matter what their record was, what our record was, who was the better team, whatever, we just get our ass kicked up there. In fact, I'm pretty sure if y'all remember Don Magic Mikowski, I think he lit us up when we went up there one year during the Moore years when we were still a good playoff team and got our ass kicked. Like Green Bay just that's like one of the nightmare places where I see him on the schedule up in Lambeau. I'm like, it's probably going to be a loss. So with that, it's definitely an hour 45. So I'm like good to go now. Um, First time here. Hey, thanks for hanging out. Go ahead, give me a like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. We will be dropping some videos. We'll be live Thursday. And by the live stream on Thursday, I'll let you know what the game plan is for next week since it is a Monday night game. But I can tell you right now, it's either going to be Monday pregame or Monday halftime show. So, a week from tonight on Sunday night won't be two in a row. We're just going to move it to Monday. Um, and maybe if everything works out, maybe pregame and halftime. But we'll see. And I'll definitely have that all figured out by Thursday when y'all join us in. So, till then, until I see you next time, which will definitely be Thursday live. Probably I got something coming Tuesday or Wednesday too in the recorded video, and we'll have that up. So until I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.